Good afternoon and welcome to today's T&D World Web Chat titled Discovering the Perfect Solution for Optimal Asset Management, sponsored by MinMax Technologies. I'm Brianna Sandridge, Senior Editor of Energy Tech with Endeavor Business Media. To begin, I'll go over a few housekeeping items to help you have the best and most participatory experience possible with today's presentation. First, if you have any technical difficulties during today's session, please submit them to the questions window and our technical experts will help you out. We recommend disabling any pop-up blocking software or extensions in your browsers, as these can cause issues with the webinar player. Additionally, we welcome your questions during today's event. We will answer as many questions as possible during the Q&A session that will follow the main presentation, but please feel free to send in your questions at any time. To do so, simply type your questions into the question window on the side of your screen and hit the submit button. MinMax Technologies is also providing additional resources with today's presentation. To access and download these resources, please click on the Event Resources tab. In addition, today's session is being recorded and will be available on the T&D World website within about the next 24 hours or so. You will be notified by an email when the archive is available for you to view. Now, I would like to introduce our guest speakers, Carla Rust, an electrical engineer at Energy United, and Stephen Schaefer, the Assistant Electrical Utilities Director for the City of High Point, North Carolina, and our moderator for today's event, Sean Dempsey. Welcome, Sean, and please take it away.
Hey, thanks so much, Brianna. I really appreciate the introduction there. And rather than me do any speaking here, I'll make sure that I give as much time as I can to our utility presenters today. So again, discovering the perfect solution for optimal asset management. And I'm going to begin and just ask each of our presenters today to talk a little bit about their utilities and where they're coming from. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Carla, with Energy United. Can you give us a little bit of description of the background for Energy United?
Sure. So Energy United is the largest of the 26 electric cooperatives in the lovely North Carolina. We are member-owned, and we currently serve over 100,000 member-owner meters. That's across 19 counties, and we are safety-focused, and we try to supply the most reliable, most reasonably priced electricity as we can.
Okay. And in addition to that, so you said over 100,000 connected meters. About how many substations do you guys have?
We have 71 substations, and we also receive our power through 11 what do you call it?
Delivery points. Yeah, through 11 different
delivery points. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Carla. Stephen, same question to you. Give us a little bit of background on City of High Point.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sean. So the City of High Point, we have about 14 distribution stations. We serve approximately 46,000 customers in and around the City of High Point through 4 different deliveries. We are one of 19 members in the North Carolina Municipal Agency number 1. So we receive our power from a jointly purchased nuclear power plant in Catawba, South Carolina. We have just over 70 employees here for the City of High Point in the electric department. And we have everything from overhead underground engineering and metering and substation personnel.
Okay, great. So we're hearing from a large electric cooperative and a good-sized municipal utility in North Carolina today. So, coming from, talking about asset management and, knowing a little bit about your journeys, you both came from a position of using pencil and paper and spreadsheets to manage your substation inspections and assets. Can you tell me a little bit more about the journey you've made from where you started to where you are now? And Stephen, I'm going to start with you for that one.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I've actually done this. I've been down this road twice. I worked at another utility a few years ago, and as careers advanced, when my career moved and shifted a little bit, I took over the substation division at that utility and kind of found out what everybody was doing. And like you'd mentioned, Sean, we were using pencil and paper and taking that data and then putting it into an Excel sheets, basically. And so one of the things that we needed as a utility we needed a way to consolidate that information. And so I started doing some research, looking at some different solutions that were available. I met the guys with MinMax at the North Carolina Electric Meter School one year, kind of started the conversation with them there. And one of the things I liked about it was that they had a lot of canned reports and they had a lot of canned questions to help kind of fuel those inspections. But again, to your point, we use those legacy processes to go from pencil and paper straight to Excel, and I knew that there had to be a better way. So what I was looking for, right, we all start with a problem. What problem are we trying to solve? And so some of the things that I was looking to solve was I had a need to consolidate that information. I was looking for a more structured approach for the inspection activities for the technicians, and I needed better reporting, right? Instead of going to 17 different Excel sheets, I wanted to be able to do that all at once. And then I needed to gain some more visibility into what assets we had. I had taken this department over, and we had, at that time on that system, I had 14 different substations, didn't know what was out there, right? So I needed to be able to consolidate all that information. Fast forward to where I'm at now, and almost the same story, right? At this utility, we had a lot better information. We had the information. We just had it in a lot of different places. So again, we needed to consolidate the information from multiple Excel sheets. We needed things like manufacturer information, serial numbers, model numbers. We had that stuff, but they were all in different spreadsheets that had been done. It was like somebody started it one year, didn't finish it. A couple years later, started it, didn't finish it. But they all kind of fit together if you knew where to look, right? We needed a little bit more structure for our inspection activities. Our guys were doing the inspections, but it wasn't necessarily, they did them on time every month. They were getting done, right? But they weren't really structured. And one of the things that I noticed after talking to the guys is what they did is they would go out and they would basically do the work twice, right? They would go out, they would inspect everything, they would write it down, and then they would bring it in and type all the information in. And with that information, somebody else would then go in and look for the specific information that they needed, right? Which kind of led me to, what are we doing for reporting? And with this system that we're using now, we can, again, have better reports. We can go in directly and we can generate those ad hoc reports. We can have reports emailed to us monthly. So those are some of the things that kind of led me to do what we're doing now. And then on the other side of it, we had no real visibility into what assets we had, as far as how old are the assets that we have. What's the remaining useful life of those assets? Do we have any warranties that are expired? What I really wanted to be able to do was make data-driven decisions. And so I wanted to be able to look at, okay, are we looking at these, a breaker, for instance, and how many times has this thing been maintained? Are we still having issues with it? Should we go ahead and replace this thing because we spent enough money on this that we could have just replaced it? Do we have any outliers out there? Do we have a lot of, do we have a one-offs, right? A one-off breaker here, a one-off regulator there when we have the need to standardize. And that's what kind of led me to look at an asset management system.
Great. Thanks, Steve. So, Carla, same question to you. I mean, again, starting out, pencil, paper, spreadsheets, and talk to us about your journey.
Yeah, actually, we didn't start out with paper and pencil. That occurred before I came on board, and my predecessor was moving us into just an automatic substation inspection report. And the problem was the software that he had originally employed was not designed for substation inspections. And they, in order to save money, they worked it out. So this software company did the front end, in other words, the human interface, and then we did the back end on in-house. And we started having problems with losing data. And it was every month, it was excruciating to get this so-called automatic report because it required a lot of massaging to get it. For example, your months, if we're in July and we're doing inspections, we're inspecting from June. So what the back end would do would grab everything with a June date between like 1 June and 15 June, which might be when they would typically perform their inspections. But maybe they started in 30 May. Maybe they got an early start. Maybe it continued on to 28 June. So there was no tag on those inspections to really designate that, hey, this is the June inspection. So every month we had to fiddle with those dates. When they uploaded their data from their tablets after working out in the field, so one of our requirements was we have to be able to go offline. We have some very rural areas. We simply don't get coverage when we're doing these inspections sometimes. So they would get back into a service area, they would upload their tablets, and everything that they just did would be erased from the tablet. So if there was a problem during the upload and their work didn't make it into the database, that was it. We lost everything for the entire day. Mm-hmm. And that could be detrimental when, say, we had a peak in August and they didn't capture that peak at the substation because that data was lost that day. That could be very bad when it comes time when we're doing our construction work plans and planning for future infrastructure. So we were so happy with what we had going on. We went back to paper. From our standpoint, it actually took me about the same amount of time to manually enter the data from the inspections as it was to massage all the data that was supposedly being done automatically. And I thought at the time, man, we are not the first people who have thought of this. There's got to be somebody out there that has designed something specifically for inspecting substations. The other problem we had with the old system was everything was written in stone. So all your inspection sheets, all the questions are written in stone. I can't change that. Meter multipliers, strangely, were written in stone. And we all know those things can change over time. They're not forever. But in order to get those changed, I would actually have to pay them money to go change lines of code to update these things. Same with regulator sizes and things like that. They were written in stone. That was a huge problem for us. So fortunately, one of our substation technicians worked for another city, and they were using MinMax. And he asked one of his contacts within that city to come and show us what they were using. And we were so impressed, we invited MinMax out to do a presentation. And for our due diligence, we asked a couple other companies. And we were just so impressed with everything that MinMax had going on, where we had the option of actually beginning to do some asset management, which was something that we were doing before on spreadsheets, be able to store all of our information in one location, which was something we weren't doing. It was just wherever somebody felt like putting their spreadsheets was where we had information. We could write our own questions. If I wanted to ask if the sky is blue, I can ask if the sky is blue on that inspection. So we had a lot of control over what we could get, a lot of flexibility, and we can change with the times. So that was our story.
Okay. Well, I mean, continuing on that, so, obviously, when we evaluate technology partners, we have a lot of criteria in mind. I mean, for you, what was most important in evaluating, the technology partner that you selected?
It was data. We were really burned by that data loss. We wanted to make sure that when we were working offline, that when we uploaded those inspections, we were not going to lose that day's work. That was very important to us. It just wasn't right to hear these guys go out and they work all day and they had literally nothing to show for what they had done. We had information that needed to be gathered and it would be just gone. So So it was very important for us to be able to work offline and to reliably upload that data into the database every single time.
Okay. All right. So that was the one big critical thing for you, making sure that you had that offline capability and could get all that data.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Same question to you, Steve.
Yeah, for me, so for the technology aspect, one of the things that I really was looking at was, is this something that is intuitive? Is it intuitive? Is it easy to use? Because time and time again, we've all worked for companies that we've had some sort of technology or some piece of software that's been thrown at us, and us as end users have had to use that technology, and it's just horrific, right? You spend more time trying to work the bugs out of everything or trying to navigate through the software than you actually do. It actually becomes a barrier to you to actually do your job. And so something that was easy to use, something that was intuitive, was really something that I was looking for.
Okay. Yeah, and so following up, I mean, and I've been in utility technology now for almost 25 years, and one of the things that I've realized over the years is that a lot of technology projects, not just in utilities, but across the board, they usually underdeliver on value. So how did your partnership with your vendor help? I mean, you guys seem to be an exception to the rule in terms of getting value out of your investment. So how did your partnership with your vendor help you meet or exceed expectations? And I'll go to you for that. Steve first.
Yeah, sure. Really, it was easy. It was really easy to implement. Really, honestly, most of the work was on us to make it work, and really, it was just design the inspection that you want, which was super simple, right? You could take and do exactly what you've been doing before on paper. As Carla mentioned, you can ask any question that you want to ask, right? If you want to ask, like she said, is the sky blue in an inspection, you can put it in there. Yeah. And so that being said, when we went through to implement, all we did is we took everything that we were already asking and we made questions out of them. And so as far as a workflow, our guys are they're doing the same process that they were before, but now they're doing it on a piece of technology versus a piece of paper. And we've added some things in there to streamline those processes. We try to get it to where when they walk through a substation, when they do these inspections, that they do it in a manner that's in a straight line, so to speak. So that's really what's helped us.
Okay. And Carla?
I think one of the things is that value-wise, it grows. So, we started out, we really were looking for substation inspections and inspections for our downline reclosers. And what we get is also an equipment management database, and we can do work orders, and there's all this stuff that's constantly adding, and we can use it for more things. So where now we started out with just doing substation inspections and downline recloser inspections. Now we're also adding in another department that does our downline regulators that we're setting up. So we're constantly adding value, and we can ask for more when we see different uses that for min-max. We get more value because we're still paying the same, but we can do more stuff with it. So it's always growing.
Okay, great. One of the other things with technology deployments is managing change, right? Managing change in the organization. And, I'm sure as everybody progresses, and I'm sure you went through it, Carla, as you went from some digital tool back to paper, then back to a digital solution again. Talk to me about how you manage the change for a lot of different stakeholders in utility. How receptive were your colleagues to the new way of doing things, especially when they had a technology at first that they didn't have a great experience with?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because one of the things is these are not people that work for me. So I'm not a manager. Nobody works under me, and they work in a different group. So, you kind of have to sell it to everybody and to their bosses when we want to do more things. And you have different levels of adaptability, I guess. Some people are early adapters, or early adopters. Some people are later adopters, and you have to really sell it to those later adopters. One person came up to me one day and said, "Gosh, I don't know that we're really getting a lot out of this." And I said, "Well, you actually have to use it to get anything out of it." So I spent more time with them and, did more training so that they got familiar with it, because when you're more familiar with it, obviously you're going to want to use it. But I found with my technicians, it was very easy. They were very happy to get rid of that paper again. They were tired of juggling that and, accidentally feeding it coffee and just dealing with the paper, all the stuff that comes with dealing with paper. They were happy to get rid of that. And then I found with the users conference, with all the training that they can get, taking them there, they just become that much more comfortable with it. And then they started getting more creative with how they wanted to use it as well. So they're getting a lot more use out of it than they were before.
Okay. Oh, great. Steve, how about you?
Yeah, we had some negativity at first, and there was a little bit of pushback because old habits die hard, right? But what I tried to do, or what we tried to do here, was get everybody in on the ground level, let them know this is what we're looking to do, this is why we're doing it. And we had some people who were in, kind of the younger generation, and they were a lot more receptive. Like I said earlier, I was trying to create a more structured approach. And come to find out, the guys in the substation department were actually looking for a more structured approach. They wanted to be more structured. So this kind of filled a gap for them. And like Carla said, the more that they've used it, the more familiar they've gotten with it, the more they actually like what they're doing with it. And it makes sense. I have questions all the time. Hey, can you add this? Can you add this? Hey, we're having issues with this. Can you take this away? What's the best way to do this? So overall, I think it's been a positive thing. There hasn't been a lot of resistance to the change. I think that's partly because, as I said before, it's intuitive, it's easy to use. So that's kind of where we're at with the change management piece of it.
All right. Well, to finish up my piece of this and my questions for you before we go into the open Q&A, Steve, I'll start with you in this one. Can you tell me what surprised you most, or what unexpected benefit did you receive as you were deploying the technology?
Yeah, really, it actually happened a couple weeks ago when I was at meter school. One of the features is you get some email notifications when things aren't done, right? And so I was at meter school and I'm getting some emails popping through saying, "Hey, this isn't done yet. This isn't done yet." So I said, I'm going to give these guys a day and just see what happens. Well, when I logged in the next day and looked, lo and behold, all of this stuff starts getting done. So I didn't even have to say anything. They just did it because they got the notifications too that, hey, this is overdue. This needs to be taken care of. And I mean, it's almost like it was on autopilot, right?
Okay.
I get the email, hey, this isn't done. I need to do this. I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to go take care of it. So that was kind of one of the things that surprised me, how quickly they jumped on that.
Oh, excellent. That's great. And Carla, how about you?
I think for me personally, all the things that we can attach to that piece of equipment that follows it around through its life cycle. And then for the guys, I've found they kind of surprised me after the user conference. They're not like big computer people. And after the users conference, they were able to come up with new uses for it. For example, one of them set up his own annual fire extinguisher inspection to remind himself, hey, it's that time of the year. I need to get everything ready for that. So I was pleasantly surprised when they started being able to do that.
Okay, great. No, thank you very much. And I think you've given us a little bit of insight into some of the value derived from that. So given that, and I think we're going to go ahead to the open Q&A, and I'll ask Brianna to step back in here.
Of course, thank you guys so much for that incredible knowledge and insight that you guys provided. But as Sean said, we're not quite done yet. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our Q&A portion of this event. And for our audience, please continue submitting the questions that you may have using the question window, and we will answer as many questions as possible with our remaining time. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump in. So for our first question, one audience member asks, is planning and scheduling covered by the solution that you put in?
Yeah, I'll take that. It is covered. You can go through and you can set any manner of different time frames that you want to complete things. If you want to do things on a monthly basis, weekly basis, annual basis, you can do all of that. You can put that in there, and you can, for instance, you can put a work order in there and say, well, it's due by a certain date, or you can have an inspection that says it's due by a certain date. So yes, absolutely, those are in there.
Alrighty, and so for our next question, one audience member wants to know, was this system easy to implement, and about how long did it take you to achieve implementation?
It was. I think it was really easy. Probably the most effort is in your planning. We had to come up with our naming conventions, how we're going to group everything up. And then once you get everything planning, I mean, it just takes as long as it takes you to fill out a spreadsheet and upload that into the database. And I did find the best method is to put it into the training database. So we have kind of a sandbox database that we can play with a little bit. So we have a chance to see how that's going to work ahead of time. And once we know that's going to work, we can then transfer that over to the production. So it was pretty easy. In fact, for us, I handled it all by myself.
Yeah, I would mirror that. It's very simple. There's a lot of the templates that are there. They're easy to use. And like she said, once you come up with your naming convention, really it's just a lot of copy and paste. I mean, and if you can work with Excel, you can import those things very easily.
Well, perfect. Well, kind of keeping on that same train of thought, what are any and some additional benefits that you've seen when using the eSmart solution?
I would say one of the things that we're going to start to take some benefit from is having the ability to do inspections on more than just substation assets. We're going to start, before too long, starting to incorporate vehicle inspections, just monthly checklists. Anything that you have that's a checklist that you're already doing, those are some of the things that we're going to start to incorporate and utilize as a benefit of this service.
Yeah, we're using it for more downline equipment that's not necessarily handled by substations. And like I mentioned before, little tiny things like fire extinguishers. We've also, in order for me to get my more automated reporting, we have taken advantage of the Power BI offering. So we can pipe that information into Power BI, and I have a nice dashboard that I built based off the information from those.
Perfect. Well, it looks like we've got time for about one or two more questions. So as we know, when implementing any different type of system or solution, there can be different questions that we have that might come up about that. How would you guys say the support has been when it comes to implementing this system at your own sites?
It's been excellent. I've not had any issues at all. I get a response very quickly, normally within a few minutes, if not, a few hours. I know when I implemented the first time, Billy came down, he sat right beside of me, his laptop, my laptop, and we just knocked it out. So support has been really good.
Yes, and when we started adding that Power BI subscription, we've had very good support as well. Even when we've had like a little hiccup with everybody's firewalls, being able to deal with other people's firewalls and have everybody's IT stuff talk together. They've been really great at working with our IT department. So it's been fantastic. They're very supportive and easy to deal with.
Alrighty, so for our last question, our audience member asks, I heard that the solution comes with many canned questions for inspections. How many are we looking at? And did you leverage many questions there, or are you still using the content on your paper the most? I know that kind of had a couple parts to it, so if there's any part that really stuck out to either one of you on that one.
Well, it has like a list of questions that you can attach to the piece of equipment. So the way that your inspection is built, you attach the questions to the equipment type, and then you build your inspection to grab whatever equipment pieces you wanted to add in there. And so they have a pretty sizable list already there that you can easily just search and just tag to that equipment. And then whatever you find that does not exist, that you can just create a new question. So it does cut down on the work having that there.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, I'm afraid that we have run out of time today for today's web chat. For those questions that we did not have time to answer, MinMax Technologies has graciously agreed to reach out and follow up with as many unanswered questions as possible via email in the next few coming days. And with that, that concludes today's presentation. On behalf of T&D World, I'd like to thank our presenters for their discussion today, MinMax Technologies for sponsoring today's web chat, and of course, all of you for joining. Thank you and have a great rest of your day today.